Good morning. Welcome to the June 21st ASSP monthly meeting. Today we have a great speaker, Mr. Danny Smith. He works with SafeStart. He's a senior consultant with them for many years. I hope you enjoy his presentation. Oh, cool. All right. Get right in. All right.
All right, we're all set, Victor. I think we got it set up. All right. Okay, that works. We're trying a couple of new technology pieces here, so if that doesn't work, then we'll figure it out as we go along. How about that? All right, thanks everybody for being here. And it looks like we're getting there, almost there. There we go. All right. All right. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the folks who are online. If you can't hear or have any problems or something there, just drop something in the chat, and we'll be watching that as we go through here. See a lot of faces I haven't met before. See quite a few that I've known for quite a while. Some of us that we have known for longer than we won't talk about, right? We're not going there. So nice to be here with you today. We're going to roll through this pretty quickly here. I actually trimmed a little bit of the presentation off of this. Normally I go about an hour with this, and I know that's a little long for this meeting. So I've taken a bit of the stuff off the back end, and we'll give you a little QR code at the end if you want some more information or more details, particularly about one of the skills that we're going to talk about dealing with habit formation. If you want a little guide on that, I've got a download for that for you, and it's free. And oops, this is supposed to be the other way. I was fixing to try to figure out how to click, and I had it upside down. I was like, this isn't going to work. So we're going to talk today about the idea of it's not rocket surgery, it's brain science. And I wish that I could say that I was creative enough to come up with that title, but I didn't. So I have to give credit where credit's due. I was on a flight with Delta Airlines back a number of years ago. And have you ever been on one of those flights where the boarding process was just chaos? And that's kind of what was going on here that day. And I'd already gotten seated and got my bag stowed away and everything. And there was a flight attendant who came down through there. And I think he was a little bit grumpy already because of the way the boarding process was going. And he just kind of leaned over to me. And that's what he said to me. He leaned over and just kind of grumbled. He said, "It's not rocket surgery, it's brain science." And I looked and I thought, you know what? Hey, I know a good conference title when I hear it, right? So I grabbed a pen and paper real quick and jotted that one down. I was like, yeah, that may be my next conference session there. Now, if you'll go back and you look a bit at my biography here, you'll notice that I'm a safety person. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a rocket scientist or a rocket surgeon for that matter. I'm not a neuroscientist. But what I want to do today is go through and I want to look at some things that, if I can just boil it down to this, and I'll probably have a slide that says this in a minute, but why do we do some of the things that we do? Why does some of our workforce do some of the things that we do? And just give you some nuggets here to think about safety a little bit differently, maybe than what you've thought about it in the past. All right, so we'll see where we go with this, all right? One of my cohorts was at a conference a while back, and it's a big panel discussion with some of the big heads of behavioral safety, if you will. And during that presentation, at the end of the panel discussion, they had one of those open mics sitting out in the middle of the room. And a gentleman came over after 2 or 3 people had asked questions. And this guy kind of timidly came up to the microphone, and this was the statement he made to the group. He says, "I am not, neither do I wish to become a behavioral psychologist. I'm a safety person." And he turned around and he sat down. And the entire room erupted into applause. You know, I don't mean that disparagingly towards anybody, any of the folks in behavioral-based safety or any of those folks who through the years have brought us a long way and added a lot to the discussion in our industry. But it's one of those, you can tell I'm getting older now, and man, I've seen folks kind of go to one end or the other of the spectrum too far, and we need to find a good holistic approach to this. And I hope this today will give you just some ideas here on some things that you can do to kind of think about it. We do see all sorts of stuff out there nowadays that refer back to some of this psychological side of safety. And so I want to dig into this, but I want to dig into it in layman's terms, all right? I'm not the behavioral psychologist. I'm just a safety guy. Heck, I'm not even really a safety guy from the original thing. I didn't pick safety on career day. I didn't go to college, Brandon, to be a safety person, right? I started out in operations management. I was an old production scheduler and night shift supervisor and production supervisor. And then one day people ask me, how'd you get into safety? I always say I got into safety because I didn't run fast enough. And that's kind of true. I had somebody that came to me where I was working one day and said, hey, we need to build a safety program from the ground up. Are you interested? And I said, sure, sounds interesting. So that's how I got into it. And we were talking before we went online here, Danny was telling a few folks, you know, it's one of the most rewarding professions you can be in. And I think that's very true. You know, I think it's very, very true. And I found it to be that for sure. So let's talk about this as we go through here and think about some of the things that we do and why we do that. And as we do this, I'm going to have several quotes on screen here. I'm not going to read all the quotes to you. You can kind of jot those down if you want. We'll send out a PDF later. It's got a lot of this information in there if you want to do that. And like I said, I'll give you the download on this as well at the end of it if you want to zap the QR code. But 3 quick things I want to talk about today. First of all, I want to talk about the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And in some of these quotes, you may see the subconscious also referred to as unconscious, and it's kind of referring to the same thing there. In other words, not the part of our brain that we're consciously using to think and make decisions, okay? So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also distinguish between some of the different types of behaviors or actions that we all do. And I say all because we're all human. We all do this, we're all in this together, right? So we'll look at that. As we do that, we're going to do that in particular because I want to make sure that we avoid this idea of blaming the worker or blaming the person. And I think that's been one of the knocks in terms of behavioral safety, if you will, through the years, is people always look at that as, oh, you're trying to blame somebody. No, we're trying to get better. We're trying to learn, trying to improve together. And that's what we're trying to do here. So we're going to learn some things there and think a little bit about this. And going to involve you in some exercises as we go through here. And those of you online, you can throw some stuff in the chat. We'll kind of watch that as well. We're also going to look at some skills that we can use just kind of prevent some of the things that are going on with us and use this as a 24/7 approach, okay? So first of all, I want to start out thinking a little bit about the differences between our conscious and subconscious mind, all right? And start this out with just a quick little poll here, if you don't mind just raising your hands with this, all right? Make sure I state this one right. What percentage of our actions are controlled by our subconscious minds? All right. What percentage of our day-to-day actions are controlled by our subconscious minds? How many of you think it's like 80 to 100? Anybody? All right. Got a good number of hands there. How many of you think it's less, like 60 to 80? I have to look back and see what my numbers are here on screen. I'm sorry. All right. How many of you think it's like 40 to 60? All right. No hands there. And even less. The real numbers here, if you think about it, is actually our subconscious mind controls about 95% of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And that's pretty interesting when you think about it in terms of safety. Now, as we think about that, some of these things are, you know, the 5% is kind of the cognitive activity that we have, if you will, our decision-making and things of that nature. But if you look at some of the other stuff that we've got here, and I'm going to click through a couple of these just in the interest of time here, the subconscious mind not only deals with some of the things that we do on a routine basis, it also controls some of our bodily functions, if you will. I mean, nobody in the room here, nobody online, we're not having to sit here and go, heartbeat, 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 lungs, breathe. You know, we're not having to do that right now, right? That's happening automatically, as are things like our senses and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of other stuff that's going on inside our subconscious mind as well. Some of our feelings, some of our emotions, some of those reactions that we think about, our habits, our gut instincts. You ever had something you just, it's like, something just isn't right? And a lot of that's coming in our subconscious mind. Now that may feed back over to our conscious mind then, but those type things come from our subconscious mind, whereas our conscious mind really focuses on the logical and intellectual processes of the day, like decision-making, planning, strategy, communication, that type things, right? So keep that in mind as we think about this. And just a few quotes as we go through here. If we had to think about everything that we did on a day-to-day basis, our minds couldn't do that. Our brains are not wired that way. What our brains literally do is it focuses our energy and our efforts and everything that we're doing into that conscious mind. And our brains are constantly weighing, is this something important that we have to think about, or is this something we already know what to do? And if it's something we think we already need to do, guess what? It goes to the subconscious mind, right? So let's keep that in mind as we go through here, okay? So, oops, I'm going the wrong way. So another interesting thing here, and this comes from Christian Silvestri, who's the Safe Start distributor down in Australia. He's done a lot of work in the neuroscience field. And one of the things that he says, and I borrowed this slide from him, is we are wired biologically to react different ways with our conscious and subconscious mind. Yeah. Our subconscious mind reacts to the perception of danger, whereas our conscious mind assesses risk. If you think about this, if you're laying in bed at night and you hear a loud noise, what is your first thought? Somebody's in the house, right? Now we live in the South, so we're probably grabbing some sporting goods equipment, right? Yeah, y'all, I'm not talking about a golf club either. I think y'all know where I'm going with that. Anyway, yeah, so it's one of those we instantly perceive, hey, what? There's something dangerous going on here. Do we ever wake up when we hear that noise in the house and go, oh, something must have fell over in the kitchen? No, we instantly think it's somebody in the house, don't we? Yeah. We perceive that as danger. And the other side of that is our conscious mind is assessing risk, right? Do we see people assessing risk in our workplaces? Like every day, right? And that kind of feeds into the next part of this, and we'll talk about is some of the different types of actions that we all have, okay? We'll look at some of these actions or behaviors. You can use whichever term you want to there. And we'll look at this and really start thinking about this in terms of how we avoid blaming people, all right? So let me ask this to start with. 3 different types of actions or behaviors that we all do. Let me ask this question to start with this. How many of you have a stepladder at home? No? Just about everybody in the room got a stepladder. Now on that stepladder, next to the top step, there's a little decal. Somebody tell me what that decal says. Do not stand on or above this step. Now at work, we would never, ever, ever consider standing on or above that. But how many of you are like me and at home, it's a different story, yeah? You say no, yeah, you're one of the few I've seen you've learned, okay, all right, yeah. So, but a lot of folks will say, okay, I think I can do this time. And what do? It's a deliberate at-risk action, yeah? I think I can do this safely this time. And why do we think we can do that safely this time? We didn't follow the last time, right? It is a positive reinforcement of a negative action, positive reinforcement of a negative action. I didn't get that out fully there. But yeah, we think, hey, nothing bad happened, so I think I can do that, yeah? We make that conscious decision to take a deliberate action. Second type I'd like to talk about is a habitual at-risk action. Do you see anybody taking habitual at-risk actions related to cell phones nowadays? Now, what's interesting with anything that is habitual, I won't say everything, but in most things that are habitual, there are a few exceptions to this. Most things that are habitual, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, actually start out as deliberate actions. We originally started making this decision to start texting while we're walking or texting while we're driving, yeah? Over time, what's it become in our society now, though? Very habitual, right? And so people do that without thinking about it. My wife, Angie, is in the back here. We're actually leaving here in just a few minutes and we're going to the airport. Do you think we'll see anybody texting and walking in the airport? Oh man, it's going to be everywhere, isn't it? Yeah. And you see that in your job sites, you see that in plants, you see it at the grocery store, you see it everywhere now. It's become a very habitual thing in our society. The third type of action that I think all of us do is what I would classify as just an unintended at-risk action. You're walking along, you're looking at a report that's in your hands, thinking about the meeting that you're going to next. You're not really paying any attention to anything going on around you. You're just thinking about that meeting and what you've got to present. And as you're walking along, you don't even see the wet floor sign or the puddle in the floor, and down goes Fraser, right? Yeah. And some of y'all old enough to remember that. If not, you can Google it and figure out where it's from later, okay? Anyway, so 3 different types of actions. Now, here's where I'm going with this, okay? I think in industrial safety through the years, we haven't done a good job distinguishing this. And here's what I mean by that. I think what we have been doing is we have been, if I'll back up a second here, I think we've been treating a lot of stuff, in fact, most things, as though it's deliberate. And I don't know that everything that's happening with our workers is deliberate. I don't think everything that's happening with us is deliberate. So I think we need to take a step back and kind of rethink a little bit about what we're doing and how we're managing this. So just a little bit of a little bit of the way to think here. So my question is, are we approaching safety the wrong way by treating everything as deliberate? Yeah. The deliberate at-risk actions, what I find is that those are driven primarily by what? Conscious mind, right? Whereas the habitual and the unintentional actions tend to be more driven by the subconscious mind. And how much of what we do every day is conscious? About 5%. Yeah, so, but yet in safety, I think what we tend to do is we tend to treat everything like it's deliberate, yeah? And if something happens, we do what? Well, we go back and we come back with another procedure, another rule, another guard, another whatever it is. And we think, hey, that's going to fix whatever this is. When really what we may need to do is address some of the stuff that's going on here in the subconscious. Does that make sense? A little different way of thinking about things, but I think it's something, and I don't think you can do one without the other. I think you got to have both if you really want to be effective. All right. We talk with Safe Start, and this isn't going to be a commercial here today by any means, but we talk about human factors in the workplace and in society as a whole. And we talk about it not in the ergonomic sense. Some of you have an ergo background. You know there's a broader definition of human factors there that deals with how people interact with workplaces and tasks and all that. But for our purposes, we just talk about it being the people elements of systems and conditions that affect our reliability and our performance. And it can be positive or negative. Yeah. Give you an example of some of the stuff that we're talking about here. Oops, sorry, got ahead of myself. That happens from time to time. I was on site with a group a while back, and one of their supervisors, they were talking about how they do 5 why investigations. And whatever type investigation you do, you're probably going down similar roads, right? And one of the things that this gentleman said, and you can see his name was Anonymous. Y'all know Anonymous? Yeah, I keep his name out of this. He said, when we do a 5 why investigation, and we get down to the human factors or the human side of this, it's usually so we can point the finger at somebody or blame somebody. See a lot of heads nodding here, yeah? And that's what we tend to do with this. Is it any wonder people don't want to always tell us all the details of what's going on, or wonder why people look at things that dealing with the psychological side of safety or the behavioral-based safety, if you will, as being negative, because they do see it as trying to blame folks, right? So what I would suggest is maybe we need to rethink our 5 whys. And I know it's not concrete, the exact questions you ask every time, but I would just suggest that we maybe need to think about some other questions here. Let me throw some out at you here and get some response here from everybody, okay? Why do you think someone would deviate from what they do normally? Why would somebody deviate from their normal behavior or their normal actions? What would cause them to do that? What's that? Time, okay? Feeling time pressure? Sure, that's a great one, yeah. Somebody else? Okay, being a follower, not a leader. I like that one too, yeah. What's some other things there? It's easier, shortcuts, yep, okay. So some of those are kind of deliberate things. Some of them have some other influences from outside as well, right? All right, I'll give you another one here. Why would somebody take actions that put themselves at a higher risk? Well, I'm meddling now, aren't I? Some of the same answers they had before, right? Probably some other things, yeah? How many of you think it could be just the pressure to get the job done? Yeah, see a lot of hands nod, hands raised and heads nodding. I'll get it right here in a minute, yeah? You think about that. And sometimes is that pressure to get the job done, is that internal with the person? Or is that something, somebody mentioned culture earlier before we started the Zoom call here. Is that something culturally within the organization? Is that something from a supervisor they may be feeling? Could be yes to all of those, couldn't it? Yeah. Is that something we should be asking as a why? Yeah, and do we often ask those type questions? I don't think we do. And I think we need to start considering some of these things. Give you a couple of others here. Why would somebody who's been empowered to make a safety decision like stop work authority, why would they not do it? What's that? Oh, meeting deadlines, production, absolutely, yeah, yeah. And again, some of that's personal, some of that is corporate and cultural, right? Yeah. There's all sorts of things that are going on here, aren't there? But I don't think we stop and look at that. I'll give you a couple others here and just bounce through these real quick, just in the interest of time. Why would somebody not ask for help or clarification before they proceed? If they were uncertain about how to do something safely, why would somebody not share an idea that could make work easier and safer for everybody? Yeah. Sometimes that's that peer pressure. Sometimes it's that fear of somebody saying something. Oh, you're just buttering up. You're trying to get on somebody's good side, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Danny.
I think sometimes a lot of it has to do with complacency.
Okay. Come back to some complacency. Sure. Sure. Yeah. And I think that applies with a lot of these, right? Yeah. And complacency is a really interesting thing too. I find complacency, and we talk about complacency as a personal state that you can be in with Safe Start, but I also find that there can be organizational complacency as well. Yeah. And that's a big, big thing as well. Yeah. One more here. Why would somebody operate unsafe equipment or choose to operate unsafe equipment? Well, I don't mean to quote Larry the Cable Guy here, but sometimes it's just what? Get her done, right? Yeah, exactly. So, not sure he's the best safety example, but we won't go there. So, all right. So let's think about that and keep that in mind and start thinking a little bit about some skills that we can use to help us personally. Let's start with us, and then we can certainly extend that out to help other people around as well. And with that, let's think about some skills that can particularly help us with the conscious and the subconscious mind, because I find we need some help in both areas. Is that fair? All right. So the first thing we'd like to do is talk a little bit about learning to recognize in the moment when some of those human factors are elevated with us, okay? We use a term with our training called self-triggering. It's basically recognizing something in the moment. Does that make sense? So one of the things that's interesting with this is there are things that are going on with us that we can realize. We call them telltale signs. If you're in a hurry, there's some telltale signs that you can recognize. You may feel your heartbeat increasing. You may feel your adrenaline going up. You may feel your face getting flushed. Same thing if you get aggravated while you're driving in traffic. You may feel that frustration starting to build. You get the idea. So looking at this, here are some lists of some human factors. And some of you may notice the first four there, what we talk about as states within Safe Start, but we've added a bunch of others to this slide. There's all sorts of stuff here that can affect us, both positively and negative. Yeah. Give you an example of this, and this involves me and Angie, my wife. And I'm glad she's here today because this is really cool that she's here, although she's going to kill me for using this example. But we talked about it last night, and she knows I do this, so it's not, and I'm not doing this disrespectful to her at all, but I'm really excited to have her here just because it's cool to have her in the room, number one. And she has put up with me now for a little over 39 years. So yeah, that's pretty amazing for anybody to do that. I don't know if I can put up with me for 39 years, but we've had our ups, we've had our downs, right? And we've had, y'all remember those vows, better, worse, sickness and health, Well, we've dealt with all sorts of that. Some of these are related to some of these human factors, I'll show you a picture. Let me fast forward past this real quick. Oops, back up. We'll get to that in a second. This is one of my favorite pictures of her, and she hates it, but it's she's nodding her head in the back of the room for those of you who can't see her. And those of you who are from the Chelsea area, yes, that is Las Mesas. They're in Chelsea, right in front of Publix. This is a very important picture because this picture was 5 weeks after Angie had had some major back surgery. This was what, early spring last year, I guess, because she had surgery in March. Having to keep all my dates in there. So this would have been sometime in April. And boy, she had been through it. And she had really she'd had some surgery back about 10, 12 years ago, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And she had to have a laminectomy in her lower back. And if you don't know what that is, I found this really cool video of it online. Basically, they open you up and they go in and they grind off part of your bone there on your backbone. I see some of you nodding. You may have had similar things happen. And as you do this, they go in and basically grind off part of your backbone. And then they are able to go in and find everything that's impinging on those nerves and pull that out. And once they get through with that, they sew you back up again. And help me if I get this wrong. You had L2, L3, L4, L5, S1, is that right? Yeah. 3.5 hour surgery, I think it was. And she had really gotten down before that and really wasn't able to do a lot. And it was amazing because after the surgery, I'll never forget, she looked at the surgeon and she said, "Thank you, you gave me my life back," And that was really, really true. And she had gotten to where she couldn't do a whole lot just because of the back pain, you know, which also meant she had to put up with my cooking sometimes. She had to put up with me doing laundry. Amazing. We didn't get like that Brady Bunch episode where everybody had pink underwear. We didn't do that or anything. So I figured out how to do all that. Actually, I'd done some of it before, so it wasn't too bad. But, you know, it was one of those things we had to take care of each other during that time, right? And I don't say this, say, look at me, because she was the one that was hurting, right? We got up to the surgery, and boy, we had an ordeal just getting to the surgery, didn't we? Because we went through 2 different surgeons. Y'all ever had a doctor, you're like, no, you ain't touching me. We have one of them. Like, no, that ain't happening. So we finally found a good surgeon, and we were really happy with what happened there. She does have some really cool hardware now. So we're heading to the airport in a few minutes. We took her through the airport a few weeks back, and everything went good. So that she didn't sell out the metal detectors. We'll try it again here in a few minutes. So we're going on vacation right after the presentation here today. So she got all sorts of nice hardware there in her back now. But it's given her life back, you know. In case you're wondering, we're going on vacation in just a few minutes. So we're excited, and we're going to get to go walk around Yellowstone a little bit this week and next week. So we're excited because you couldn't have done that a year ago, year and a half. No walker, no cane, and no pain. That's the other thing, right? Yeah, other than just the fact that we're both older now, and we all feel those pains we all know from time to time. Yeah. Saw somebody the other day said every chair at my age has become a rocking chair because you have to rock to get out of it. I can relate to that. Yeah. Anyway, but boy, it took us a long time to get to the point we are today, right? And any of you who've had major surgery, you know, it's an ordeal, you know, and certainly that was the case with her. It took us a lot to get to this picture 4 weeks after surgery. Now, I was thrilled she was able to get out and about and move around that much at 4 weeks, 4 or 5, we debated this last night, 4 or 5 weeks after surgery. So really, really great to see her up. And the number one thing I love about this is she's smiling because she's not hurting, you know? But you know, if you go through surgery, you have to have help for a few days. And I'm not, again, not saying look at me because she's the one that had to deal with the surgery. She just had to deal with me, right? But give you an example of how things would go around our house. And we laugh about this now. And I don't say this to put her down or embarrass her but it's just the way things were, right? We'd get in our bed at night, and I sleep over on the top side of the screen there, if you will, and she's over on the left. And we had her set up with all juices and snacks and pills and medicines and whatever else she might need over there. Because I was working from home, but I'd come in and check on her, but she could take care of herself some of the time. But right after surgery, it was tough for you to even roll over, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it was about 14 weeks total recovery, right? And so about you know, the first few weeks there, she was just, you know, struggling even to roll over in the bed. And so I tell you how a typical night went. And we laugh about this now. She'll probably throw something at me in a minute, but a typical night would start out something like this. I sleep with a CPAP machine. All right. So I'd get her settled in the bed, and then I'd get the CPAP on. All right. And those of you who wear these, you can get the Darth Vader mask on. Right. So I get all that on. And then our dachshund sleeps with us, so I have to get Frank in the bed. So ain't he cute? Oh, yeah. We got a new puppy too. Frank is not happy right now. But anyway, that's another story. We'll talk about that later. So get settled in, and then Auntie would say, I hate to ask you this, but my throat's so dry. I can't reach something. Can you get me something to drink real quick? So go over and get her some water, right? Which meant I had to take the CPAP mask off. And what happens when I take the mask off? Frank is now up, and he's running around trying to get out. And because the only thing he reacts to faster than you taking your mask off is when he hears a cheese wrapper open, right? So suddenly he's up now. So I get up, have to go around the bed, right? Get some water, come back around the bed. You get the idea here, yeah? Get back in bed, get Frank settled, mask back on, whole 9 yards. A few minutes later, what happens next? Not every night, but occasionally you'd hear boom. And I'd say, what happened? What did you drop? Drop my phone. Now, what am I feeling on the inside at this point? Be honest. Yeah, y'all know what I'm feeling, right? I'm feeling a little upset. I'm feeling frustrated. Can I display that? No, number one, it's not good for our relationship, right? But the other thing, what happens from a safety, let's bring it back to safety for a second. What happens from a safety standpoint if she tries to do too much and doesn't involve me because I react negatively here? Yeah, she could hurt herself, right? Could slow the recovery. She could get better and hit me then, right? Anyway, you get the idea. No, she doesn't hit me. Anyway, yeah, I could not react this way. I had to keep that in. Had to get up and do what? Yeah, back around the bed. You get the idea here, right? Anyway, I say all that to say this. Showed you this list of human factors before. Do you see any of those that you think may have been affecting us during this time? Somebody said all of them the other day when I did this presentation. There's all sorts of stuff going on there, wasn't there? There was sickness, there was illness, there was frustration on her part and on my part. She doesn't like to ask me for help with stuff like that, right? And she didn't want to bother me with stuff, but yet it's one of those things she had to have help too, right? We were exhausted. She was still in pain, just feeling a bit overwhelmed. The financial stress, good Lord, I think I paid Grandview Hospital, and I love Grandview, but I think I paid them 4 different times. I'd pay them, they'd pay me back. I'd pay them, they'd pay me back. And you talk about frustration. Yeah. All sorts of stuff going on here, right? Let me ask you this. Which of those you think are affecting the folks in your workplace right now? What do you think some of the top ones would be that are affecting your folks? It's not all just about things going on at work either, is it? Like with me, that certainly was having an impact on what I was doing, right? What do you think's affecting your folks out there? And are we considering that when we're going about and managing our safety processes? And should we be if we're not? I think that's the bigger question, right? And that's where I'm going with this today, right? So you think about that. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. If you look at those first 3 there, I'll just throw those out for example for a moment. Again, those are the states we talk about with our process. If you recognize some of those telltale signs that are going on with those up front, if you recognize when you're getting frustrated and your heart rate starts to go up, anybody like me, you get frustrated in traffic? Yeah. Oh, kindred spirits there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I get so tickled. Angie I am not a patient driver at all, and she'll be riding with me somewhere and I'll be talking to the other drivers. I don't give them hand signals, but I do talk to them. Yeah. And she'll reach over and pat me on the leg and say, honey, they can't hear you. Yeah. Anybody talk back to the TV when the news programs are on? Yeah. I got to where I don't even watch them anymore, but we're not going there. But yeah, I can recognize when I'm starting to get frustrated. I feel the adrenaline starting to spike in my body, right? I feel other things going on. If you can recognize some of those things, and I said a little bit of this earlier, if you can start recognizing some of that up front, can you consciously begin to say, hey, I better do something about it before I make a mistake that's going to get me or somebody else hurt? Yeah. That's something we can do that helps our conscious mind. What about our subconscious mind? That's a little bit different. And I think a lot of this has got to get back to where we can think about the idea of working on some habits or practicing, building some habits here. Really interesting thing here. I love the idea of recognizing the problems or the stressors that we have out there. That's huge, and I think it's a positive tool for us. But the neuroscientists also tell us that our self-control, the brain network associated with self-control, are some of the first ones to go offline when we're stressed out. Whatever the stressor is, any of those human factors we listed. So we got to have something else here. What happens literally sometimes when this happens, it just throws us back, it throws those things over into our subconscious, and we got to figure out what we're going to do about it. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about habits and habit formation. All right. We'll wrap up with this here. Another quick poll here. What percentage of people do you think actually achieve their goal when they're trying to form a new habit? What percentage of folks actually achieve the goal? Yeah. How many of you think it's like more than 75%? Boy, a bunch of pessimists in the room here. Now, probably maybe realist, I think. Actually, what about more than 50 to 75? Still no takers. All right. Anybody kind of optimistic here? 25 to 50. Okay. Got a couple, 3, 4 hands here. All right. So everybody else is thinking it's less than 25%. Yeah. See a lot of heads nods there. How many of you go to the gym on a regular basis? Yeah, you can tell I don't, okay? Probably should, but I don't, yeah. Do you see a lot of people going to the gym, particularly at the first of the year, gym membership spike? Yeah. You go to the gym early, you go to the gym in January, you got to fight to find a parking space, and then you can't hardly find a machine in there, yeah? How does it come February 1st? Oh, it's like a ghost town, isn't it? You can pick any parking space or any machine you want. I know that much, and I don't go to the gym, right? What is that? People start out the year with resolutions, trying to build new habits, and what happens? Falls off quick, doesn't it? The actual number here is less than 10%. succeed at building a new habit. So a part of that is we don't understand the habit formation process. And I'm going to hit this really quick here. How many of you heard we're creatures of habit? It's very true. Yeah. Give you a quick exercise. Not going to do anything weird here, okay? But if you would, just cross your arms real quick. Some of y'all may have seen this before, okay? Did you think left over right, right over left? You just did it, right? If I told you to relax your arms and then cross your arms again, guess what you're going to do? You're going back the same way. Why do you do that? Did it feel weird? You just went the other way. Y'all try that. Try to go the other way. Don't slap yourself in the face with it now, because does it feel weird? Some of y'all say, I'm going back the other way. You have to get that bad juju off of there, right? It feels weird to try to do it. Why is it's not a right thing? It's not a left hand, right hand thing, a left brain, right brain thing. It's just personal preference. But it also is what? It's a habit. How did you form that habit? More than likely, when you were about this old, yeah, something didn't go your way, and you did what? You maybe even that and got your tail tore up a little bit for the foot stomp, yeah? Poked your bottom lip out a little bit, and you crossed those arms. And ever since then, you have done what? Crossed your arms that same way, yeah? It's not a right way or a wrong way, it's just a habit, yeah? There's a lot of other habits that we develop. So it's just something where we become creatures of habit. And that's just a simple example, okay? We all have habits. Those of us who are a little bit older may remember when seatbelt became mandatory. Some of us remember when seatbelts were first installed in cars. We're not going there. But yeah, did we have to learn that as a habit? Yeah. I come from a long line of rednecks. We didn't wear seatbelts, even if we had them in our vehicles, you know? So we had to learn that. But now when you get in the car, what's the first thing you do? Yeah. Second thing, actually, in the South, we know we got to turn the AC on first, right? Second thing is grab the seatbelt. But most of the time, you don't even think about it. You just reach over your shoulder and you grab it. Yeah. So that's a part of this as well, right? Habits are very efficient. It's our mind's way of taking tasks that we don't think we have to recall or think about or consciously make a decision about. Yep, go ahead. Yeah, you got a chat. Okay, good deal. What you got? See what we got here. Oh, I see a C. Okay, that was in response to the poll. Okay, I got you. Good deal. All right, no problem. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, habits are efficient. It's our way of just finding ways that we can relegate to our subconscious mind. And it's our brain's way of trying to preserve energy and time, yes? And that's really what we're trying to do here. Our brain really doesn't think about whether a habit's good or bad. It just does it, right? Second thing I'd like to talk about, and this is where I'm going to wrap up here, is the process of forming a habit. And think about this as you move forward, okay? There's a really interesting book out there that talks about this. It's The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and he talks about how we go through building a particular habit. And I'll just start with a simple one that's got a safety connotation to it, and that's using a handrail on steps. Now, I know some folks don't want to use a handrail anymore after COVID. It's like cooties or something. Y'all remember when cooties was the big concern? Yeah. Wow. We're going way past that now, hadn't we? Anyway, if you're going to start working on using this handrail as a habit, you've got to consciously begin thinking about that up front. And the same applies for any habit, particularly if it's a safety-related habit. You've got to consciously think about using that. And I'll probably get ahead of myself here. But when you walk up to a set of steps, you have to think about, hey, there's a set of steps. And I know this sounds weird, but literally what's going on is you walk up and your conscious mind is saying, oh, it's a set of steps. Hey, remember, we're working on that habit of using the handrail. Hand, reach out, grasp that handrail, hold on to that as we go up or down these steps. It's a conscious decision to do that. You get to the top or bottom, you let go, you come up to another set of steps later on. Maybe it's the same day, 2 or 3 days later. Your conscious mind says, oh, it's a set of steps. Remember, we're working on, you see where I'm going with this? It's a conscious decision. Over time, what happens then is your mind recognizes the cue, the visual cue is a part of what Duhigg talks about. We recognize a cue, and when we see that cue, it goes not to our conscious mind, but rather to our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind says, hey, grab the handrail. And our conscious mind doesn't even have to think about it anymore. We're walking along, our eyes see the steps, and what happens? Arm extends. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So is it important for us and could it give us a lot of benefit in safety if we can get people start thinking about habits that they can get where they do things safely automatically? Can you get to the point where you habitually put your PPE on? Yeah. And you know, I've traveled to a lot of different sites, a lot of different plants, and sometimes it's different PPE and different environments, that type thing. And so I have to consciously think about that, you know? I have to consciously think about, hey, I'm leaving the meeting room during the break and I'm running down to the restroom or the break room, but I got to walk through the plant. I got to put the hard hat on, right? I have to consciously think about that. But somebody who works there all the time, can they get in the habit of putting that hard hat on all the time, or putting the earplugs in all the time, or the safety glasses, whatever it is? You get the idea. Anyway, I've gone way ahead of myself on the slides here. But again, the big thing here, this is one of my big words for the day here. When you get to where you can have your subconscious mind take that over and do it automatically, you've built what the neuroscientists call a preferred neural pathway. And literally that means you formed a habit or a preferred way of doing things in your brain. At a technical standpoint, in case you're wondering, you've actually connected neurons in your brain, and it's built a pathway in your brain that says, hey, when you see this cue, do this and react this way. Really important for us to start doing for those things that are coming back to our subconscious mind. Okay, I did get way ahead of myself here. How many of you ever heard that, by the way? Start wrapping up here. If you do something 21 days in a row, it becomes a habit. That's not true. It's just a myth. Probably came from a book that was out a number of years ago. And basically the guy talked about, hey, if there's a change, a recognizable change, it takes you 21 days to begin recognizing it. This past summer, I gave up on my hair and just started shaving my head. Some of you's like, yeah, I hadn't seen that look on you yet. But in fairness, some of my hair gave up on me way before that. So I just gave up on the rest of it, right? It took me about a month looking in the mirror and saying, oh, that's me, instead of, whoa, where's the bald guy, right? One of those kind of things, yeah? It took me about that long to recognize the difference consciously. Now I look in the mirror and think, yeah, probably better shave. Now I got one more day. I think I can do that, right? So I don't even think about it being somebody else now. That's where that probably came from. But the actual number is really staggering. Average is about 66 days for habit formation, but it can be as much as nearly a year for us to form a habit. So you got to do what? You got to keep practicing, got to keep practicing, got to keep practicing. And practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes what? Permanence. And that's what we need to do with this. All right. Let me fast forward here. Talked about that. Another big thing, I'll mention this as we wrap up here. When you're working on a habit, whatever it is, be sure to reward yourself. This is something that helps us at our subconscious mind level as well. After you've done something 30 times as you're working on a habit, celebrate it. You know? Now, it's really important for a couple of things with this. Number one, the reward has to be, it helps us it increases the likelihood you're going to repeat it in the future if you reward yourself. And I know that sounds kind of Dr. Phil-ish, I get that, okay? But if you begin to reward yourself for doing something, it helps for you to want to do it again, yeah? And one of the things that happens is, number one, the reward has to be bigger and better than what you normally would expect, yeah? If you go to the gym and work out every day and then you stop on the way home and get Krispy Kreme, well, number one, it's probably not kind of working against the gym thing, right? But we're not going there. But number two, if you say, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym 21 days in a row and you stop and get Krispy Kreme, is that a reward? No, because it's still the same thing. You're gonna have to go DQ and get a Blizzard. I mean, you know, you got to step up your game, right? But here's the thing. Bad example, I know. But here's the thing. What really is happening, whoops, other way, Danny. When we receive unexpected rewards, and I know we're rewarding ourselves, but it's unexpected to our subconscious mind, what it literally does is it releases dopamine in our brains. And when that happens, it says, hey, I like that. And what do we do then? We repeat that behavior. Yeah. So it's really important to reward yourself as you're doing these things, okay? As you're developing habits. All right, I'm gonna close out there. If you would like more information, I don't know if you can zap all of the QR code there or not, but oh, thank you. It's great to have a director over here doing this. I appreciate that. If you'd like more information about that, there is a full habits download out on our website as well. You can zap that and go over to it, or just go out to safestart.com and type in habits and you can probably pull it up there. It's free. It's just some guides about habit formation and some do's and don'ts about habit formation. It's a really cool little guide that we've got there, and it's free. Welcome to do it. We won't bomb you with emails or anything like that. It's just a free resource for you. And we'll send out some more information on this from the PDF of the file in just a bit too. Okay. Any questions from anybody? Anything in the room or outside of the room on Zoom? Hopefully I didn't go too long there. Is that right? Okay, good deal. All right.
Any questions?
I am a consultant, I'm paid by the word, so.
Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, the coveted mug, yes.
Mug. Have you got this one yet?
I don't have this.
This one doesn't blow up in the microwave or dishwasher.
That's good. Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a safe vacation trip.
Yes, sir. We're looking forward.
Stay away
to it.
from the
Are you?
for your lunch? Y'all got food in your mouth? Stand to this.
Here you go, Tom.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for opportunity to be together and to learn, to think about things differently, so we can help ourselves and help other people around us. Thank you. Blessed in your name. Amen.
Partner in crime too. I haven't seen Butch in a while. I know he's no longer doing what he was doing.
The last I talked to him,
Any guests that like to introduce themselves?
I've been here recently, so.
My name is Brandon Tunstall, and I just graduated JSU third. Actually did my intern with J.E. Dunn Construction. And it's off on my son. He's in the safety too.
Maybe you'll find out how we know who you are.
I was here for the last one, the Peach Trust,
Yes.
but Greg Chisholm was volunteer. I'm helping.
Anybody have any announcements at all? Any safety, fears or issues at all? I'll give you one safety, issue out there. Had a client. Obviously, the personal protective equipment room wasn't designed quite right. There was about an inch between the floor and the wall. And they were welding on the other side, a spark got in, and they used cut-resistant gloves. It caught on fire because of the cardboard. ABC portable fire extinguishers don't work on their brand of resistant gloves. They have water. So they tried to put out what ABC and, well, ended up burning down the PE, what you should call it, called basically the manufacturer's eye, you gotta use water. So if you're a PPE room ever affected by the fire, you can cut the glove, make sure you have the right fire extinguisher to put it out. Perfect.
That one.
The brand name.
I've got one thing, this is just kind of an interesting thing that I've been dealing with for the last couple of days, I've got it finding. they've been, we do pre-hire testing for them, we set it all up. And we've done it for them for several years. They've come to us with a request or with a question. One of the tasks that their candidates have to do is do several runs on a ladder. And the question was, what do we do when we have a candidate whose weight exceeds the safety measure of the back? So we had a little bit back and forth, they're saying, you know, we just bring them over to our facility as a trucking company, can we bring it to our facility and have them climb a ladder, like in the trailer, with the chassis, and the more we talked about it, it came out that if they're up on a load, we do a lot of flatbed stuff. If they're up on a load and they're higher than 4 feet, they're supposed to be wearing some type of fall protection. The fall protection almost anywhere is not rated above that either. And so their question was, can we make accommodations for this person so that they don't have to do that part of the test? But it's not just that part of the test. It's the safety gear everywhere is only rated to a certain weight. And so, yes, we could, you know, take that off of their test or let them do it somewhere else, but they're still going to exceed the standard almost anywhere else they go to any of their other clients. And so it's just an interesting concept to think about. If you do any pre-hire testing, or if you're looking at any accommodations like that, it can be an uncomfortable conversation because of what it's addressing. But you can't really just say, well, we're just gonna ignore that and we'll have to do something. There's just other factors. Kind of an interesting thing to think about when you're seeing.
Ladders do have great amount of safety there. Because my ladder's, you know, I let it go home. I haven't done that. It's flat. But I also collapsed one once. Yeah, 6 foot down in the down. There's no July meeting next month. We're gonna meet with the the northeast section of the SSP, which is just starting up. They're gonna meet at the Honda facility over in Lincoln, Alabama, on the 3rd Friday, which is the 19th of July, from 11:30 to 1. We're doing a tour of the Honda manufacturing facility. Opelika Montgomery section had a wonderful meeting in Hyundai yesterday, and like 50 people attended the meeting. 32 people on the tour. Let's try to beat that. Last time we had a tour at Honda, the executive committee went to nobody else. So, you know, we failed before, we'd be winning last. Let's try to be first, maybe have 33 people. And Honda's gonna feed us. So they're providing lunch for us. Charlie's on Zoom. Do you have any additional information, Charlie? If you want to send it to us, we'll announce it to everybody.
About registration for that.
That'll be coming up when we do the regular newsletter that we send out for registration. So,
But you got something on chat there.
Yeah.
Sorry, interrupt your lunch.
I'm here, Tom. I don't know if y'all can hear me or not.
great, yes, we can, Charlie. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, yes. I know I sent a rough draft before the other things we were talking about. I can easily get something this afternoon to Vincent or to you, or even beginning of next week to get the invite out. Excuse me. Sorry. I can't be there in person, but today was just a busy day. The meeting is actually July 19th. I don't know if it was said, it's hard to hear on my side, and I don't see it on the slide. So.
We'll get the invite out quickly. We'll get out a few, 3 or 4 times so people know we're going to meet there.
Perfect.
We're going to the Denver conference other than that. Find any good presenters out there that are willing to do it free. We get a lot of emails that say they're willing to charge us several $1,000s or more. We prefer.
I'll go for only a couple thousand.
Right, they're cheap, just so we know that. How we can Zoom anywhere in the country. We've had presenters from Texas before and Tennessee, so we're willing to do that. Governor Safety and Health Conference is coming up in August. Only a few seats left. They'll probably close this month, so if you haven't registered, you want to go to the conference, time is now. because once it closes at 400 people, I'm sorry, I can't get you in. I'm nobody at the college. Let you know that last year, there's no way I'm gonna be able to, talk to them, get you in. At 400, it's shut off, period. This doesn't look even for some reason. Upcoming, presentations, hopefully Dr. Schimmel will do his presentation in August. On August 16th, before we head off to the governor's conference. Tentatively, October 4th, be the first Friday. ABC, Safe State, and Alabama chapter ASSP is going to do a half-day EDC on silica. The finalization of this event will be next month. So ABC or Southern Company has offered one of their sites to do meetings. So plan on October 4th, a silica PDC half-day event that you'll get credit. Training opportunities out there. Check the UA Safe State site. They got OSHA 500, 2564, 7105. Those are over at Tuscaloosa. Some of them are webinars. They got a whole bunch out there. You can check. An interesting one coming up through Auburn University through UAP. It's Intro to Cognitive Engineering and System Design. Auburn University up in Huntsville at the Cummings Research Park. It's a half-day event up there. Delta FPDE and Portsmouth East West on a Zoom meeting coming up in July. That's the only two they have in July. And no meeting. We're gonna meet with the Northeast section of ASSD on the 19th, third Friday of the month at the hot dog facility. Our next meeting will be August 24th. Enjoy your lunches. Any questions? Yes.
Don't really have a question, but just thought I'd throw it out that we are still doing free heat stress training through the Susan Harwood grant. That training will continue through the summer, run till about the end of September. It can be done on site, it can be done virtually. We have the virtual option. We do have a Hispanic training option available for it. Free of charge, and the training, the scope of the training can run anywhere from, 1 hour introductory type of session to 4 hour or so train the trainer. We did one of those here just recently as a PDC, but got some new folks here. Just thought I'd throw that out there and let you know if you're interested in something like that. Just throw me a call and get you a bus.
We can go to them, right? Scott will go to their location. Right?
Yeah, we are still sending trainers to folks and to do those. We just kind of normally want to try and get a group of about 40 or so together. And so if you company or you've got a group or something along those lines, that kind of thing, or you just want to be put on a list, sometimes we'll just do periodic market sessions where we'll come up with a date. Training for that.
Yes, I had a kind of interesting month on some of the job sites that I visit. Silica, MSHA has come out with their new regulations this month. But, so I've been really kind of talking about silica in construction, forget about mining. And, I noticed everyone's wearing an N95 mask. Everyone was wearing it. So I was real proud. And then I started asking them, have you been fit tested? Have you ever had a medical evaluation? And it was like a deer in the headlight. They have no idea. And so then I started asking the subcontractors, do you have a program? Because if OSHA comes on site, they're gonna ask to see that program. And they have no idea what I was talking about. And we're talking about some major job sites. We're not talking about just, but smaller contractors, but they don't know the regulations. because OSHA has not been that active. COVID's over now. Well, MSHA's always gonna be active because they got to be, but, it's kind of like, it's great to have a mask on, but it was a big deal I had 3 years ago. I was in a conversation and almost, well, I did get thrown out of a place for my, remarks when I said, you know, there are hundreds of thousands of elderlies that are dying in nursing homes because we're putting N95 masks on them and they have never been fit tested or medical evaluation and dying of heart attacks. You know, but it wasn't a heart attack, it was COVID. It wasn't COVID, but they got $3,000 for saying it was COVID. And I got a little upset because people were dying. So this idea of just putting a mask on something is not good enough. It's not good enough. So if you're buying a box of masks, ask whoever you're getting it from, if they would come out and, do a test. At least put the hood on the guy and try something, do something.
The Deep South Center also offers fit testing and can help with programs on a basis of you call us and we'll come to you. So
Oh,
we're
that's-
happy to do it. So
Now, you guys do something similar to that.
Testing